Well, there is a new twist in the Trump Georgia election case. District Attorney Fani Willis and Judge Scott McAfee are now drawing primary challengers in their bids for re-election. That means they both face the possibility of being pulled from the case before it heads to trial if they lose. Let's bring in our Fox News legal editor, Carrie Kupek-Urban. Carrie, great to see you this morning. So that's getting interesting.
Oh, this has always been interesting. But there are a couple of things to keep in mind, Sandra, as we wait for the judge's decision about disqualification. One, it is really unusual for a DA to be disqualified from a case by a judge. So that's a fact that everyone needs to remember. Two, there was a lot of discussion about the standard of proof, and that matters because, unfortunately, the Georgia law appears to be unclear here. Is it a preponderance of the evidence, meaning is it more likely than not that she acted inappropriately, or is it beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high standard?
All right, folks, J.R. Dukes with you. I appreciate all my free-minded friends joining me today. It's always a pleasure to come and chat with you, and we are all over this Fani Willis case. We are on, it's not really a verdict watch, but we are on decision watch. We're waiting for Judge Scott McAfee to return and give us a verdict, or his verdict, I should say, his decision on whether or not to remove DA Fani Willis from her position running this case against Donald Trump, this so-called RICO case. We all know what this is about. It is de facto election interference against our favorite president, Donald Trump, and it is sad and a shame. And I hope the judge has the ability, has the bravery of going forward and basically start chipping away at this case like he did yesterday. Remember, yesterday he dismissed 6 cases against, I should say 6 counts, which is kind of like 6 cases against several defendants. 3 of these particular charges he dismissed were directly against former President Donald Trump. So that is obviously very good news. Now, like this particular reporter and her guests are talking about, it depends on what the judge is going to apply as the standard of proof in this particular case. Will probably steer his decision. If the judge decides, and I want to add one other thing, she essentially said that if it's what they would call the standard of proof is it more likely than not, or is it going to be beyond any reasonable doubt? I don't think the judge has to show beyond a reasonable doubt. And I would add one other category that generally applies to prosecutors, solicitors, or anyone that is in that position prosecuting, or in this case, persecuting a case, and that is the appearance of impropriety. So if there's an appearance of something wrong, I believe under Georgia state law, the judge can easily remove the DA and her entire team from this case because justice demands that there is not even the appearance of impropriety. Second would be the standard of, is it more likely than not, what we call a preponderance of the evidence. Is it more likely than not that DA Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, and her team have engaged in some type of malfeasance, some type of improper conduct? I don't believe that the standard is actually going to be beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think that standard applies, but like this particular lady said on Fox News here, it is very vague, unfortunately, under Georgia law as to which way this will go down. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be dependent upon the standard, and I'm sure the judge is going to be very thorough in his decision. So we're going to continue on with this here.
And, looking at that and hearing all the testimony that we've all watched unfold and all the drama on screen, I think if it's a more likely than not standard, I think the judge could probably squeeze through a disqualification. But if it's beyond a reasonable doubt, I think it gets a lot harder because it's a lot of he said, she said, and circumstantial evidence. And again, because it is so unusual and it's a very big deal to disqualify a DA, these are the things that a judge that he's thinking about as he makes his decision.
So let's rewind the tape and go back to a few of those moments. As you said, it's always been interesting. This was February 15th inside that courtroom. Fani Willis, listen.
You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me.
That's not true, Fani. You're the one sitting in the witness chair. So you can say you're not on trial, but sweetheart, you're sitting in the witness chair with your dress on backwards and you are being asked questions by defense attorneys pertaining to your malfeasance. So that sounds like a trial to me, but I don't want to get off track here.
On trial.
And then this was Fani Willis's former friend testifying on that very same day. Listen.
Personal.
romantic.
Remember, this is Robin Yearty, the lady in the top left hand of your screen as you're looking at. You got Ashley Merchant, attorney Ashley Merchant on the right hand side, who of course represents defendant Michael Roman. And at the bottom, you have a picture of Judge Scott McAfee. So this is Robin Yearty. She is essentially the ex-best friend, the ex-good friend of hers from her college days, and she worked for DA Fani Willis for a short time. So there is some type of problem between the two, but at one point they were basically best friends, and she is going to tell you right here that she personally saw Nathan Wade and Fani Willis together romantically.
I just want to make sure we don't get in an argument over what personal and romantic is later. When I ask you personal, do you take that to mean romantic?
Yes.
And do you understand it that their relationship began in 2019 and continued until the last time you spoke with her?
Yes.
As you just said, Carrie, the bar is very high to disqualify a DA from a case. At this point, what do you think are the chances that will happen?
I don't know. I think it could go either way. I think that if you have a judge who is a more traditional judge and wants to adhere to standard practices, they're going to be resistant to disqualifying a DA, again, given the precedent value, the precedent that it would set. Also keep in mind that apparently, according to reports, some of the defendants have people that they'd like to bring forward who say that they will also testify that this relationship began long before they gave it to the court as far as what they said it when it started, which of course would be a problem because if they lied to the court, both in court and in filings, that would be, not only would it be a crime, which they would have to deal with separately, I think that would be almost automatic grounds for disqualification because it goes straight to their integrity. And then one more thing, Sandra, don't forget, there's that Georgia lawmaker investigation that's going on as well. And they say that they have people who want to come to them and testify under oath who say that she's lying about when the relationship began. So that's something that's still happening in the background. But, the judge said that we can expect a decision from him over these weeks. And from the reports that I'm reading, it seems like it's going to come any day now.
Really interesting. Real quick final question.
So the judge in this particular case has a self-imposed deadline in which he has said he'll take 2 weeks to make a decision. The main reason for this is because it takes time to write up his decision. He said in a radio interview yesterday, the day before yesterday, he said that he has an outline of his decision and it takes time. It takes time to go through the law, explain his decision. Obviously, this particular case is of national importance, if not worldwide importance. So it's important to him. And as he said in his radio interview, it's important for his children that he gets his decision correct. Now, I have to tell you, I disagree with this guest on Fox News. I just think she's just flat wrong. At no time is it beyond a reasonable doubt. If that was the case, there would never be a prosecutor removed off a case. Generally, there are two standards, and the lowest standard is essentially, is there the appearance of something wrong, the appearance of malfeasance? That is generally what I have seen in most states. Now, if they go back, is it more likely or not, the preponderance of the evidence? I think the judge also can go ahead and say, hey, it's very clear. It's very clear. There's a lot of witnesses that have come forward. There are many witnesses that never took the stand. They are waiting in line, so to speak, to testify in this case if the judge wants to hear additional evidence. And as I have talked about on my program many times, there are so many cases going on right now pertaining to Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. You got the House of Representatives investigating them on the state level and the federal level. You have the state of Georgia Senate investigating them. That was that Ashley Merchant hearing that we heard the other day. There is a whole list. By my count, it was something like 16 or 17 active investigations, active cases going on right now with Fani Willis. I want to go on record right now, folks, so we can look back at this. I'm telling you, the judge is going to remove Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, in the DA's office, period. They're going to have to find another prosecutor that wants to prosecute this case. But either way, this case is dead. It's really just that simple. I don't see how there can possibly be any other outcome. The evidence that was presented to the judge was just, in my mind, overwhelming. Even if you forget or omit the testimony of his ex-law partner, Terrence Bradley, it is very clear that the witness that we just saw a second ago, her name, of course, is Robin Yearty, the ex-friend, as we were talking about. She said unequivocally, I saw them in 2019 in a romantic type of setting, holding hands with each other. It was very clear to her at that time that they were an adult romantic couple. So that's just the way it is. But stay tuned. Listen, folks, if you're still with me, you might as well go ahead, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, like, share this with someone. We need to break the cycle of indoctrination, folks. It is so important, and I hope that you'll help me on that quest. I always say, keep that mind free, never give up. And until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.